Welcome back. All right, news of the day video for all you fine people on the internet for your Tuesday, May the 20th. We have a game tonight in the National Hockey League. We didn't last night, though. So, I did go out watch the movie Thunderbolts. My wife and I reviewed that on the Entertainment Guy channel. So, by all means, if you haven't already checked that out, go ahead. So 8 o'clock Eastern tonight, 5 o'clock Pacific. The Florida Panthers, Carolina Hurricanes renew their rivalry from a couple years ago. Of course, Florida swept that series, and a majority of the votes so far on the channel are trending in that direction. 58% for Florida. The other series, at this point, 56% are voting for Edmonton. So most people seem to think we're going to get Florida-Edmonton in the Stanley Cup final again. And those are the jerseys I wore for the preview, so we'll see how it goes. Bobrovsky at one and Anderson at the other. Both goaltenders have played very well throughout these playoffs. And it really is going to be a matter of scoring first, maintaining leads, and forechecking, backchecking. It's going to be a tight series, I think. The last time they played, yes, it was a sweep for Florida, but every game was decided by a single goal. So we'll see how things go tonight. Really, for Carolina, they just have to find a way to get goals in the conference final this time out. And get a win. Get a win if they can get a win tonight. Get that lead. Get that confidence going. But we'll see what happens. Don Sweeney has signed a 2-year extension with the Boston Bruins. And when I went through social media, there are Boston fans going through some stuff with this. Sweeney's made some interesting decisions over the last couple of years when it comes to Boston and the trades and the free agent signings and other things. And so there's some disappointment amongst some Bruins fans with this announcement. He is now under contract through 2027, 2028. And Cam Neely very praising of the work done by Don Sweeney. Not really a surprise there. And so, yeah, Boston's gonna keep going down this path, and we'll see how things go next season. Austria defeated Latvia 6-1 at the IIHF World Championships. This is the first time in 31 years Austria will make the playoffs. So finish in the top 4 of their group and actually, play some games beyond the round robin. So that's great news for Austria. And we'll see if they're able to score an upset once we get through to that playoff round. But that's what's going on there. Bo Horvat's out for the rest of the tournament for Team Canada as well. I don't have it on the board because we don't know what the injury exactly is or whether it's serious or not, but he's out for the rest of the tournament. So there you go. So Toronto, and we knew that Toronto was going to be a discussion point today. It's the day you clean out your locker and you talk to the press. I'm wearing my Marner because it might be the last time that I'm wearing a Marner jersey because he could be on his way out of Toronto. And then I'd have to probably replace this with something else because once a player has left a team, very often the fan base isn't necessarily happy to see the jersey with that player's name on it in videos. I know how weird that sounds, but there have been times where I'll wear a jersey and people are like, oh, he's just trolling us. Look, that's like, I know what happened with the Islanders. I remember most obvious one of, oh, he's got these Tavares jerseys to troll us. No, I got the Tavares jerseys because they were $30. But anyways, Tavares, speaking of, so there's a segue for you. He's optimistic he's going to stay in Toronto. And honestly, I think he was, of the 4 players that get talked about all the time, I think he was the second best in the playoffs behind Nylander. Nylander was the best of the 4. I think Tavares was very good, and if he decides to come back at a reasonable cap hit, I think it's a good call by Toronto. Stolarz did have a concussion. None of us are surprised with that information at all. He did say he didn't see any intent from Sam Bennett either, so we can look back on that and say, well, if he doesn't see any intent, right? So, yeah, Stolarz, concussion, not a huge surprise there at all. Matthews is saying he was dealing with an injury all season, so not optimal. I mean, you want a player who's being paid what Matthews is. Sure, I mean, playing through injury is considered brave, but if it's negatively impacting your play on the ice, maybe resting a bit, getting it dealt with. So it's the same injury that he went to Europe to deal with, just as you do. Sorry guys, I was on my way from Toronto to Carolina. I had a quick stopover in Berlin. Let's not make it weird. It happens all the time. So, yeah, Matthews, hopefully he's going to be 100% healthy. They're saying no surgery, so whatever it is, we still don't know exactly what it is, just that it bothered him all season. So, there's that. Matthew Nyes wants to stick around, saying he's not interested in potential offer sheets. I'm going to say this, though. You just never know. He may be saying this, and if we get to, say, July the 2nd, July the 3rd, and he's not, getting the offers he wants from Toronto, and then a team like, say, Tampa comes in and goes, we'll offer you $9 million a year, might be kind of tough to turn that down. Might be like, I really love playing a trip, but $9 million a year. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. But Nyes wants to stick around. Doesn't sound like he's interested in signing an offer sheet. But these things can change. And Mitch Marner is talking about taking a couple of weeks, and then he's going to discuss their future with his wife. And to me, that sounds like free agency talk. It just does. While other players are like, yep, we're coming back. We want to do this again. We're going to do it. Marner's like, my contract's up and I got to talk things over with people because my contract's up. So I'm going to take a couple of weeks. So I don't think Marner's coming back. And I get the feeling that of Marner and Tavares, it would be easier to get Tavares signed to bring him back than Marner. And so, yeah, I look forward to Marner being the latest to join others who have moved on from one team, gone to another, and everybody complains about how they're soft and they're not playoff performers. And what do they know? And then they win a cup somewhere else. Jack Eichel being a very recent example of that. When he left Buffalo, nobody was saying, oh, clearly he's going to be a Stanley Cup champion in Las Vegas. And, Eichel's going to be a great playoff performer. Nah, it was all of the criticism I see of Marner, I saw that of Eichel as well. So it all depends on where he goes and what kind of role he plays on a new team. So it definitely sounds like Marner's probably on his way out. And then for Toronto, they got to figure out where they're going to spend that money. I'm not up to Toronto yet in the series of videos I'm making on teams that got eliminated from the playoffs. That'll be coming soon, though. I'm up to Ottawa. Ottawa's what I'm doing a video on today. So get through the rest of the first round exits, and then we get into the second round exits, and I'll probably go alphabetical order there as well. Speaking of Ottawa, Nick Jensen, lower body injury, has had surgery, and he's hopeful to be ready for training camp. So for Jensen, who had a really strong start to the season, and then you could see there were parts of the season he was struggling, so it's possible that this is what was going on. He credited their training staff with helping him through this, but it does sound like that might have been why some of his play towards I want to say the last 25 games of the season, he wasn't as sharp as he was earlier. But Jensen hoping to be ready for training camp. Doesn't sound like he's going to miss any time into next season. So the CBA is being discussed, and remember, this is supposed to be done. Gary Bettman wants this done and put to bed by the time we reach the Stanley Cup final. He basically wants it that he can have the Stanley Cup final press conference and say, here's our new CBA. Bam, it's done. There has been no discussion from the NHL or the NHLPA on changing the playoff format. And I don't know that the NHL can just unilaterally do that without discussing it with ESPN first, because I believe it is ESPN who really like the rivalry setup with divisional matchups in the first round. And knowing who's going to play who in the second round as soon as that first round is halfway done, who's going to play who. And with a 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5 setup, sometimes you don't know who's going to play who because you have to see who wins that setup, and it can be kind of a mess. Especially if 8 defeats 1, then that can kind of throw everything off. But there's been no discussion of changing that, and I don't think that there will be. I feel like fans and media want that to be changed. I don't know that players or the league really care as much. And anytime Bettman's been asked, he's fine with the playoff format. He doesn't think it's a problem. LTIR, though, there is apparently a change coming, so fans will be very happy about this. It sounds like we are going to get a salary cap into the playoffs. Now, I think part of the argument's been that players, they're already all paid by the time you reach the playoffs. Their last paycheck is just before the end of the regular season. So maybe one discussion point could be, what if you just added a couple of pay periods and they're still being paid during the playoffs? So they still get the same amount of money. Each check's going to be a little bit less. And maybe that, it could be something that simple. Or you just say, you know what, they're already paid, but we're going to keep the salary cap into the playoffs. But it definitely sounds like that's what the plan's going to be. And it sounds like that'll be part of the next collective bargaining agreement, which would kick in not this summer, but the following summer. So that could absolutely have an influence on teams at trade deadlines. It could have an influence on how teams handle injuries. You may be more likely to see a guy come back before the end of the season. The Mark Stone situation is one people talk about. The Nikita Kucherov one too. And it would definitely prevent that kind of setup. And it would cause maybe a little bit more in terms of panic selling at the deadline of contracts for teams that want to make sure they're going to be under the cap come playoffs. So that could absolutely change how the trade deadline goes and how it looks, but could be interesting as well. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. And yeah, I think Marner's probably played his last game for Toronto, and we'll see where he goes. There will be 31 teams that'll be interested in his services at some level, to some degree, and he's going to get paid. He's going to make a serious amount of money this summer. So let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. I will talk to you again soon.